welcome to the Fire Chat podcast. I'll be your host today, Caitlin Weaver. I'm subbing in for Rich Rice, and today I welcome Mark Pantak from Chicago.
From Chicago lately.
But he's actually from Texas, right? What part?
Well, I've lived all over Texas, and lately I was living in San Antonio until I was speaking in Nashville early June at a national real estate conference on seller finance and creating notes. I looked at the weather. It was going to be 105 degrees going back and looked like it was going to be like that for most of June. So I thought, you know what? I can be anywhere. I'm not only a digital nomad, I'm financially free and I've got passive income. So where would be, I know I got this new client in Chicago. Let me go look. It's 75 degrees and it's beautiful. I think I'll go pay a visit. And long story short, I've spent Chicago, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, all around the Great Lakes, having some great seafood, working on some deals, meeting some great people. And I've had a great time, and I'm still there. I've even come and gone. I mean, I'm in California, beautiful Southern California right now, but I'll hopefully maybe be in Mexico next week. So,
oh, awesome.
Yes.
Yes. So we're welcoming Mark this week to California, Riverside, to our clubhouse because he is teaching a special class on FIRE goals. So basically setting your goals for the next 2 to 5 years and mindset and all that good stuff. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, the thing to understand is we're at a unique place in the market cycle called opportunity. Yes. When you start thinking there's problems, the average mindset, the average person who has a job out there, they start hearing from the news and the media, oh, interest rates are high and there's a recession and there's foreclosures and gloom and doom and bad news. Oh, there's a war in the Middle East, any kind of stuff like that. And people start getting scared. And as Warren Buffett famously said, when people are greedy, get scared. And when people are scared, get greedy. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest billionaires on the planet. Why? Because problems are opportunities. So the number one thing I'd say is change your mindset to start recognizing problems as opportunities, but you also have to get the training. That's why I highly recommend the REIA group. You're going to talk about the REIA group here a little bit that people can come and join, right? Because
yes,
it's very affordable. I can't tell you how often I'll go and travel all over the place and I'll meet somebody. They just spent $10, $20, $30, $50,000 with some national guru. And they said, well, I didn't know. You didn't know that for like a couple $100 you could get better education at your local REIA group. And so I travel around and I spoke at the REIA group in Chicago and one in Louisiana and Shreveport. And I speak all over the country and I love it. And I'm going to be back speaking on the cruise ship in February. Looking forward to that too.
Yes. We're very lucky to have him. This is actually an exclusive event for Rich Rice and Mark Pantak this weekend, November 18th and 19th. And we're looking to do one of these classes every month next year, so once a month, getting more education to real estate investors. If you're starting out, if you're seasoned, there's going to be a class for you. I know we're going to be bringing another speaker about note investing, etc. So like Mark said, yes, we are running a club education center here, and it's $35 a month. Who knows how long it's going to be that? I know there's going to be different changes next year. But like he said, it's not $50,000 to go get told to join the local REIA. So.
And prices are going up on everything. So
yes.
35 is such a bargain. I don't even live here, and I invest that every month being a part of this group. Because, I mean, people in California are like going, oh, it's so hard to do real estate here. Well, actually, it's more lucrative.
Yes.
Because for the same amount of work you're going to do in Texas or Florida or the Midwest or other places, you work and put all this time in, and you maybe make 15, 20, 25,000. The equivalent property you could make 40, 50, 60. I've seen $80,000, $100,000 paydays on one piece of property. Why? Well, basic house is what? $500,000 to $1.2 million here. So if you get like 10% of that, geez, I mean, some people could do 1 or 2 of those a year and replace their job.
Yes.
So
exactly.
It's a very exciting time. And so part of the thing I'll be talking about, not only here briefly, but also this weekend and other times in the future, is there's a creative finance area where I have bought over 300 properties without using my money, without using my credit, without going to the bank. And now I do use other people's credit, because there's other people out there. That's part of the reason I do all this free talking, speaking, training, educating, because there's people who are busy and they don't have the time to go find these deals. I do. I've got the deals. So somebody could be a credit investor. Some people say partner. I'm careful about partner. I prefer a JV, but I'll have the investor. And of course, they got to get enough education to know the basics of that they're secure and they have an attorney, and they just, you don't just go blindly. I see far too many people, they watch some infomercial on TV or some HGTV show and they get all excited, but they have no education. They have no idea what they're doing, and they don't hire an inspector, and they just blindly trust. I mean, there's good real estate agents, but just like anything else, there's real estate agents, there's contractors, there's all kind of people out there that are not as good. And when you lose money, it's your money. So the number one thing I say when you get started, build your network of relationships, and the best place to do that is your local RIA group with people actually doing it like you. And a lot of people say all the time, oh, but I'm new. Well, yeah, so is about 80% of everybody else here. But find the new people and the experienced people and build those relationships, because some of those new people may not have the money, and you could buy a deal that they bring you. So that's one of the things if you're busy. Other people say, well, I don't have the money, but I got this deal. Well, there's people who got the money, and they'll sometimes fund you. It's called being a private lender. That could be a great place to start as a private lender, provided you do everything right. And like a bank, you get a first lien secured against the property. But all this goes back to the importance of mindset, because so many people let their fear of the unknown get in their way instead of making a decision. It's simple. I call it the ABCs. A is awareness, B is beliefs, and C is choice. So increase your awareness about what you believe and make better choices, and you can choose to get financially educated. It's called financial literacy, and I highly recommend read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read Think and Grow Rich. There's many other books out there. Matter of fact, my number one mentor for many years was a guy named Jim Rohn, and I learned so much from Jim Rohn. That's R-O-H-N. There's lots of videos of Jim Rohn out there, but he's a success philosophy, and he talked about at age 25, like many people, he was newly married, had a kid, was broke, working in retail, struggling to get by, and he had the good fortune of being a mentor, Mr. Shove, who in the next 6 years taught him the books to read, the courses to take, the way to change his thinking and mindset. So in just 6 years, by age 31, he was a millionaire. Self-made millionaire in just 6 years from broke and struggling. And guess what? A lot of his friends didn't read the books, didn't take the courses, didn't make the changes, didn't grow, and they were still broke, struggling in their job. And, some of you listening will be there in 5 or 10 years from now, but you'll be able to barely afford the rent. And right now is the time to get involved with real estate. I can't tell you enough. There's a window of opportunity that many of you can't even recognize, because right now for a short period of time, there are loans I take over at 2.5%, 3.5%, 4%. It's called subject to. Fantastic. I can leverage these loans that people already placed a couple years ago. And there's a great opportunity. Maybe we get more time here. I'll get into that in more detail, how you could do like 12 in a year and quit your job and be financially free. That's simple. Really, that's simple.
Yep, exactly. That's sort of where we're seeing the market going, not only in California, like you said, but maybe all over the U.S.
Nationwide, absolutely.
Exactly. And then, like you said, you have those people that say, oh, how can we do a deal in California? You'd be really surprised how many houses are on the market that aren't selling the traditional way. And we have to become a little bit more creative nowadays and explain the benefits of seller carry, or the benefits of sub 2, like Mark mentioned, and how they can still be safe, secure, but also move on in their life in a different, creative way.
And there's people that lose their job, especially you start having a recession,
Yes.
companies lay off, you start paying attention, and interest rates went all the way up to like 30-year high of like 8%. And so what happens is people who could afford houses back 2, 3, 4 years ago, and also house prices accelerated too. So there's a shortage of affordable housing, and the interest rates have gone high, and then been inflation. And the combination of all these things, inflation's not going away. Inflation will be here in the next 12 months, the next year, the next 5 years, especially with what government's spending. And doesn't look like the government has any intention to slow down their spending and debting and making a mess. And so basically, that, again, I said earlier, problems are opportunities. So whenever you get scared and whenever you see problems, if you can change your mindset, that's what the seminar we're doing this weekend's about. If you can become more aware about what you're believing and what you're perceiving and make different choices, you can actually change how you look at things, and then how you look at things change. It's not that they changed, you change. And when you change, all of a sudden you can start getting excited. Oh my gosh, there's a house over there vacant, and look at, they're having trouble with that one. And now you become a problem solver. So there's people get out there, they get behind. Instead of having a foreclosure, you can actually help these people by getting somebody in that house making payments, but you got to get the basic education, know what you're doing. And that's why the local RIA group, that's very affordable. You can make 10, 20, 100 times your investment very easily, but it does take a decision to change your life. That's the starting place.
Yes. I love that you said decision, because like you said, successful people are decisive. They do make decisions. That's one of the big things I'm learning is you can't stay in between two choices or two decisions. You kind of just have to make one, go with it. And like you said, it's all in our mindset and the fear and whatever's holding us back. Would you talk about a little bit more on hindering mindset and
Absolutely.
how to move forward from that?
A lot of this started back when I was in high school, because in high school, I was one of the kids that there was the smart kids, that was that elite group. I wasn't smart enough to belong in that group. I was like a C student. Then there's the jocks. I wasn't big enough or tall enough or strong enough or fast enough. Actually, the bullies liked to pursue me and I would run. And so basically, and then there's the druggies, and I didn't exactly fit those either. So the three main peer groups in school, I didn't fit with any. I was sort of, if anything, I was sort of a geek, and there really wasn't a geek group. Geeks were not in back when I was in high school back in the 70s. This was pre-geek. Geeks are, Bill Gates was like, Bill Gates I think is younger than me. So pre-Bill Gates and all this cool geek stuff, that didn't exist back then. So basically, if you were a geek, the probably one of the jocks would pick up on you and bully you and stuff like that. So I'll never forget, I tried going out for baseball, I tried going out for football, basketball, everything. And I just, I wasn't any good. And if you're not any good, they don't want you to play. They don't want people who are good. And so somebody said to me, you ought to go out for track. And I said, track? I've already tried these other sports. No, track is different. Everybody gets to play, even if you're not any good. I go, really? Well, I might qualify. Yeah. So what ends up happening, I get out for track. I never forget the coach wanted me to do hurdles. Oh. And a few times I did those hurdles. And I said, no, I don't think so.
No.
But I was slow. So I said, maybe the 2-mile run. So I ended up through, process of elimination doing the 2-mile run. And I started out very slow, very poor. It was over 12 minutes for a 2-mile run. I think there was girls running faster than me when I first started. Of course, I was a sophomore. But the interesting thing at that time, there was East Germany, West Germany, and there's Russia and the former Soviet Union, but they were dominating in the Olympics. And I can remember being a kind of intelligent person that I was observing these Olympics, and I looked at the size of East Germany, being a small country with a small population, and how are they being so dominant in these Olympics? I found that to be fascinating. I was very interested in psychology. So I went to the library. We didn't have internet back then. We didn't have any of that kind of stuff back then. But I went to the library and I started reading about sports, athletics, sports psychology. And there was a whole field called autogenics. And I learned about hypnosis and self-hypnosis and mental programming. And I read a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in that book, he talked about the importance of autosuggestion. Yep. And the more I read, the more I learned. It was like going down the rabbit hole. And I thought, I got so excited. I thought, wow, this is incredible. So if you tell yourself something over and over again with emotion, to where you get emotionally involved and it's a burning desire and you really believe it, your unconscious mind cannot tell the difference between something you vividly imagine and the real thing. And then, of course, I took other trainings and they had demonstrations. I'll be doing some of these demonstrations this weekend during the course. But as I experienced all this, I thought, wow. So I started writing down. That's another key thing of getting what you want. Decide what you want, write it down. Even if you don't know how, the how's not the more important thing. What you want's the most important thing. Write it down and start reading every book like you can like this to get inspired and stay inspired. And as I wrote down, I decided I wanted to have the school record in the 2-mile run. And I looked and it was up on the board there in the basketball stadium type thing. And the gymnasium, I was trying to think what it's called. Anyways, and I saw the time was like 10:09, 10 minutes and 9 seconds. And so I improved and I got myself down to like 10 minutes and 32 seconds, which was like starting to get close. This is like my junior year. And then my senior year, we had a transfer guy come in and he broke the school record before I had a chance to get to it. But I just kept persisting. And that's a key of success as well. Never quit. Never give up. So the two most important things I have people tell me all the time, well, you've been successful in business and you travel and you got financial independence and how can I get what you've got? I say, well, you have to decide what you want. You have to make a decision, make a commitment, and get started. The biggest thing that people do is they procrastinate. The big errors of success are procrastination and quitting too soon. If you'll make a commitment and decision to get started and never quit, you will and can be successful. Especially real estate, especially. It's hard to do real estate wrong if you know what you're doing. And if you buy a good deal and you learn how to get a good tenant and you buy a good property, a good location, long term, these properties go up in value and the tenant pays the mortgage off. Matter of fact, one of the guys I studied with, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, he talked about, is it easier to save after taxes $1 million or would it be easier to borrow $1 million? And here's the crazy thing. We used to just say, well, you know, the average house is $100,000. And in California, an average house could be $1 million. But you can still, I still buy houses for $100,000 or less. If I just got 10 houses that were $100,000 each and I got good tenants in there that paid, in 30 years, if I did nothing else, just manage those properties, got those houses, and they didn't go up in value. I just bought a $100,000 house with a $100,000 loan. In 30 years, I would be a millionaire. Just buying 10 houses. That's just 10. Now, of course, what do we think 30 years ago, what were those houses worth? Well, a house is worth $100,000 30 years ago is now worth $300,000 to $500,000. So you could go from being a millionaire to being a multimillionaire just because you made a decision to get educated on how to buy real estate right and how to manage it and how to keep it. And there's other people out there. If you don't want to do that, you can hire them to do it for you. So back to mindset. Everything, the only barrier is not a lack of money. The barrier is not sometimes time, but you've got time for other things. You got time for sports. You got time for entertainment. So make a decision. What's important to you? What's your priority?
100% agree. I love what you said about the manifestation or what you believe will be. And a lot of people don't realize that until, you know, later or never or some sooner. But whatever is resonating in your mind, whether it's positive thoughts, being grateful, or being negative, that's what you will attract. So that's what I'm trying to focus on right now is my mindset and believing that I can have, you know, 10 rentals in the next 5 years or becoming a millionaire in the next 5 years. And it's really just me against myself. And me and Mark were talking this morning about, you know, what do I want for next year? What goals am I setting? And, you know, you really do have to write it down. You do have to visualize it instead of going in blind. And I think that's the biggest key to success is actually having an outline or an idea, making that idea a reality by implementing the actions. So having the routine, like you said, or making not making smaller decisions throughout the day so you could focus your mind on the bigger decisions like creating deals. And another thing is if you find a good deal, the money will come. You know, a lot of people are scared. I don't have any money. I personally don't have any money, but I know that if the more relationships I make and the more opportunities that come, I have networks or resources to help them out.
And I'm glad you brought that up because even today, my goal is to stay liquid. My goal is to have cash liquidity, cash in the bank. And people say, well, why don't you invest all that money? Well, there's something that happens to your mindset where you walk in and you've got $100,000 cash in the bank, or not just maybe one bank, multiple banks, whatever. But the bottom line is there's a certain confidence. And there's a course that they offered before they're going to be offering again in January. It's a fantastic course. And the number one thing that people said is how much their confidence increased. And that's one of the other C's that I talk about is I say ABC, action, behavior, confidence. Because when you have the confidence, you can do the thing. But how do you get the confidence? By doing the thing.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of a catch-22. So the thing I tell people all the time, the reason I'm out here teaching and helping and speaking and not being a guru, not charging $20, $30, $50,000 huge amounts of money is because people bring me deals. And so when I first started out, I was something called a bird dog. I mean, as a bird dog, I didn't even have any education, but I found a deal. I found someone like me, brought to them, and without knowing how to negotiate or estimate repairs or put in our contract or any of the basics, I didn't even know all that. I just found this older lady who needed to sell a house. It was a referral to me. I met with the lady. I met a guy who was experienced and had the experience in buying and everything else. I just told him about it. He met me a couple months later at the local real estate investment association, and he said, "Oh, I've been looking for you. I've got something for you." And he wrote me a check for $500. Now, for some people, $500, well, that's not much. Well, keep in mind, this is back in the 80s. I'd been making initially $3.25 an hour as a security guard, and then I worked my way up, going every 90 days in for a raise of 10, 15, 25 cents if I got lucky. And in 3 years, I got my income up to $5.50 an hour. Whoopee. And so the idea of making $100 an hour was like outside my mindset at that time. And I had a college degree in finance, but I was shy, introverted, stuttered. I had lots of issues I had to overcome. So the point being is, in that, and the lady who brought me the lead, I paid her the $500, $150. Wow. So I only made $350, but I had 3.5 hours involved of my time. And I didn't know how to do a contract. I didn't know. I mean, pretty much anything about real estate, I didn't know other than find a deal and bring it to a buyer. I knew that much. And I got paid $100 an hour when I was making $5.50 an hour. Now, I've paid people as much as $1,000 an hour now to bring me the right deal. Yep. I've paid people $5,000. Why? Because I was making $50,000. So, and again, I don't use my money. I do everything I can, even if I've got the money, to avoid my money, because if I get in a bad habit of using my money, I'm going to run out of my money.
Yes. So
I do everything mindset-wise. And here's what you're going to learn. There's people out there, billionaires, that became billionaires in a very short period of time. They didn't do it because they had more time. They didn't do it because they had more money. They did it because they had a shift in their thinking and they leveraged technology. So the people who are the billionaires of the world, they got there very quick because they're able to leverage technology. And you can do that with real estate today. Yes. You can get educated and go tap, tap, tap. And it's like, wow, here's potential deals just like that. But you've got to get the basic education. And that's why I say basic education, $35 a month. You got to be kidding me. It's ridiculous. We know they're going to go up in price eventually. You're going to have to, just because what things cost. But the point being is, you don't have to have experience. You don't have to have money. I didn't even have a job. I've done this now, over 300 deals. And the last time I had a regular job was, I think, 87.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. There's this saying that we have, from Pete Fortunato. He says, "I'm unemployable." So yeah, we want to shift our mindset to not being, a W-2 job or a worker bee for other people. Like you said, working really, really hard and getting those little raises year to year. But, when do you hit the ceiling of the raises? And, you're on their schedule, not your own schedule. So that is a really great opportunity through financial independence, through real estate, which is you control your own time. You control your schedule. You can, go do things in the middle of the week and not be on someone else's schedule. There's no glass ceiling either. Like Mark said, you can leverage other people's money to work for you. And of course, it's going to be a win-win situation for both, right? You found the deal, you're bringing it to the investor, and they might have a lot of money, but not the time. So there's different ways to, like you said, JV, which is joint venturing, partnering, different opportunities. And like Mark said, you might not know where to find those opportunities, where to find those people with money, where to find the deal. That's why here at the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, we're running over 15 meetings a month. 4 of them are every Wednesday, the first 4 Wednesdays of the month. And those are fire focus groups. Those are solely educational. They're 2 hours long. They go into rentals, flips, wholesaling, and creative finance, which is tonight's. And I think creative finance is going to be really important in this market for the next year. And that's one of my things on my business plan, is how to sit down with the houses that haven't sold, and creating opportunities for the sellers to at least help with their mortgage payment. You know, some people are moving and now they have 2 mortgage payments and they don't really know what to do anymore. It's too much overhead. So again, I wouldn't even be able to do that without this real estate investment club. It's really brought me a lot of network, a lot of contacts to call if I have questions, or if I find the deal, I can literally bring it to a deal making meeting we have, which is exchangers. That's every Thursday from 12 to 2 p.m. And I literally can put the deal on the board and see who has money, who can invest. And I wouldn't have that without the support of the club. So I'm really glad that it is here for investors. I'm also new to the investing game, and I've had more support than, you know, I would without it. And I don't have money, but I have time. So I'm able to leverage that with experienced investors like Mark. And also the Fire Fast Bootcamp really helped me take action and build my confidence. And I was actually able to do the deal in the 6 weeks that we had. I was able to get a deal going, get it in escrow, get the contract signed. I wouldn't have known how to do that without this club. I didn't know how to write a contract. I didn't know how to do escrow, even though I had already bought a house. I bought it as a person, not as an investor. So it really shifts your mindset here on, you know, you can do this, you know, you can manifest it. You can believe that you're a real estate investor. You really can. So another thing that they'll be going over this weekend is the mindset shift of, you know what? I don't know the answer to your question, but I have a network of investors who do, and I wouldn't have that without this club. So.
Well, and I first met you when I came and spoke here in May, and I've seen your growth even since May, and I'm really proud of you. You've come a long way in a short period of time, so congratulations. But see, you're a doer. You're an action taker. You're willing to get outside your comfort zone. You're hungry. You have that burning desire. And I show this video all the time, a 14-year-old girl who bought her first deal, and she bought a house for $12,000 in Florida in the last market cycle of 2008 to 2012. And so Ellen DeGeneres heard about it and had her on the show. So all the time when I meet people and they're telling me all the excuses and stories and reasons they can't do it, and I say, you can't do it, really? Well, do you think a 14-year-old could? And they go, what? And not only that, a 14-year-old girl. And then I had a 14-year-old boy in my class about 20 years ago in Dallas when I was teaching, and his father came up to me and said, hey, would it be okay if my son attended? And I go, well, how old is he? He said 14. I go, oh, I don't know, a 14-year-old teenager, a little, you know. No, he's different. He's in the special and gifted program. You have to meet him. I said, okay. So I did. Now, the entire class of, 30, 40, 50 people, he's the one that stands out because he was one of the few that would actually be coachable and follow simple instructions. A 14-year-old.
Wow.
And so I'll just call him Johnny. So I told Johnny what to do. And within 2 weeks, we had this thing called newspapers back then. Some of you may vaguely remember. And so he had the newspaper. It circled the ads in there and been calling him with his dad and everything. And he had one he thought was a deal, motivated. It's great. And every Wednesday night we had a class. And so up on the board and we had everybody in class. And I called right there on the speakerphone in front of the whole class and did everything, pre-screening everything. And I said to the guy, yeah, we like the numbers. We like everything we hear. It sounds like we're going to want to buy it. We'll talk it over and we'll get right back to you. And then I turned the class and I said to the 14-year-old, well, I'm going to guess you don't have any money. Ha, ha, ha. And then I turned to his father. I said, and you don't either. No. And so I said, but somebody in this class or a combination of you do have the money. And this gentleman in the back, heavy set with the gray and the temples and the whole deal, white mostly. He said, well, I'm a vice president, real estate manager, makes about $200,000 a year, but I'm so busy. I travel all the time, got multiple states and everything else, and I'm not really going to have the time. I said, not a problem. We think team. We work as a team. We can work together, make this work. So he said, okay. So using his money that he had plenty, he was making a lot of money working. And there's people, believe me, there's no shortage of people with money. There's people sitting on money. They have retirement money. There's no shortage of cash and money. Individuals, I've borrowed millions of dollars from individuals that funded my deals, and they didn't deal with the contractor. They didn't deal with the tenant. They didn't deal with anything. And the money was sent not to me. The money was sent to a title company, an attorney, done correctly to a third party to make sure it was secured by a first lien, just like a bank. Then they got interest and they got a good rate of return. Back in the day when interest rates were higher, paying double-digit returns as a lender on a first lien for 6 to 12 months. And people are like, wow, I love that. Let's do that again. So the point being is this gentleman bought the house. I told Johnny, now go talk to him and tell him you want to stay involved. Don't worry about, there's a thing called Emerson's Law of Compensation. Don't worry about the money. Just focus on service, focus on learning, and stay involved. So get his phone number and then offer to cut the grass, offer to clean the house, offer to paint. Anything you can do as a 14-year-old, do it. Offer, serve. And he did, and the guy closed on the house. We had a whole group class over there, and we went to lunch. We came back, and the guy said, you wouldn't believe what just happened. A guy came by, says he's been looking for a house in this neighborhood, asked if he could see it, walked through it, and we just verbally agreed to sell it to him for $28,000 more than I bought it for just a couple weeks ago, and I don't have to fix it. I'm too busy. I'm going to make $28,000. I said, well, great, congratulations. And I decided to make Johnny a 50-50 partner, and Johnny made $14,000 in his very first deal in the first 90 days. Wow. And so I then had Johnny on my radio show. I actually interviewed Robert Kiyosaki and most of his rich dad advisors and spoke at some of his events around the country. This is 20 years ago, back around 2000 when his book first hit the bestseller list. But Johnny, then I had on the radio show, and I said to Johnny, interviewing him, I said, well, Johnny, I got people listening to the radio show here. They're in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, all telling me they can't do real estate. And they give me all these reasons. So, Johnny, you must have a car. No, I'm 14 years old. Well, you must have a driver's license. I'm 14 years old. You must have good credit. I'm 14 years old. You must have a good paying job. So every excuse that anybody gave me, John's 14 years old. He lives at home with his parents. He doesn't have any of that kind of stuff. And he made $14,000. Why not you?
Exactly.
Because of your mindset, because your fear, because your lack of action, because of lack of decision. It's a decision. And that was 20 years ago. I'm talking to Johnny's now. I mean, they might be 16, 18, 25, but hey, I just made $100,000. So when inflation and prices go up, so does the paycheck. So there's a lot of people in their early 20s I'm meeting who had zero experience, and they're making $100,000 their first year doing this, just because they're hungry and they're willing to be decisive and take action and commit.
Yes, sir. Wow, $14,000 at 14 years old. Back then, that would have been like, what, 80,000?
Life-changing.
100,000? Yeah,
right?
That is life-changing. That's like a year's salary back then. I'm not sure exactly how much inflation's, grown, but that seems like a lot of money for a 14-year-old. And like you said, it's about discipline. It really is about discipline. I feel that any action we take throughout the day, whether it's what time we wake up, whether it's if we work out or we don't work out, it's taking that action of your own, discipline in your mind and in having that schedule to do it. So to find another deal, to meet another person when you're out about doing your day, it's the decision that you make, and you never know who you'll meet in a day that will change your life.
I appreciate you mentioning that, because when I went my transition and I applied these mindset ideas from going from being a security guard to vice president of a securities firm. Wow. And as I was there working as a startup firm, there were like 5 of us when we started. Within 3 years, we grew from $1 million in sales to like 5 million sales to like 15 million sales. And we had 3 offices and 35 people. And I was there during that growth curve, but it's like a startup company. So I was working 60, 80, 100-hour weeks, and I was getting burned out, and I was not making a lot of money. And so I made a decision, again, like you said, the decision, the discipline. And even though I'm working all those hours, I then went back to a guy who was like myself and asked him what I needed to do. And he said, where do you live? And I said, here in the suburbs. Where do you work? Over here in the city. He says, how do you get from home to work? I said, I take the freeway. He said, well, there's your first mistake that's costing you a lot of money. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you got to start taking the freeway and drive through neighborhoods. Yes. I looked at him like he was crazy. He's like, well, then I'll be late for work. He just sort of rolled his eyes and laughed. He said, you're going to have to get up early, son.
Yeah, get up earlier.
Oh, you thought he asked me to cut off my left arm or something. Okay. I got up like a half hour, 45 minutes early and started driving. But then I had my next excuse, but it's dark in the wintertime. And when I'm driving and it's dark on the way to work, I can't see anything. It's easier to have excuses than results, right? Your excuses are your results. Bottom line, what ended up happening is he said, no, here's another tip. That's the best, because at 7 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it is, as you're on your way to work, you can see which houses look occupied. There's activity. There's a car parked there. There's lights on. People are getting ready for work and so on. And then all of a sudden, there's that house you're going by and it feels cold. There's no car there. There's no lights on. There's no sign of activity. And even though it's pitch black, that one stands out. And then my excuse was, yeah, but I can't see the address. So he said, well, there's this thing called a flashlight, and there's this thing called your headlights, and there's this thing like you can do whatever it takes to solve the problem. Even if you get the address next door, and then you come back on the way home, whatever. You just make a decision. You're going to do whatever it takes. And I did. And some of those houses turned into paydays and paychecks. And it was like, I didn't even use my own money. I just found the owner. I asked the owner. They were going to potentially lose it to foreclosure. It was sitting vacant. A vacant house is an opportunity. A vacant house is somebody else's problem. Remember, problems are opportunities. Somebody's problem is your opportunity, but you've got to be willing to serve. You got to be willing to focus on how are you going to help that person. So instead of having a foreclosure, you can save their credit. Instead of having a foreclosure, you can maybe help them get a little bit of money so they can move on someplace else and get on with their life. So I hear, investors unfortunately have a very bad reputation, some of it's earned, because they're focused on being self-centered and greedy and just making money. We as professionals focus on helping people. And when you have the right mindset and the right attitude and focus helping people, the best business is reputation and referral and character and word of mouth. So the people say to me all the time, how do you get these great deals? I never heard about this. This wasn't on the MLS. No, somebody knew me and somebody referred and recommended me because I treated somebody else right. And I was fair and I did the right thing. And they were so grateful. I've had people literally crying, telling me I was an answer to prayer.
Yes. Yes. We hear that a lot. The more you're in the real estate industry, the more you'll hear that this is a people business. And a lot of people ask the club or me myself, how do I get started? I want to be a wholesaler. How do I start? What do I say when I call people? And a lot of people just want to get the deal when they start out, and they just want to know how can I get it under contract? How can I sell the house or wholesale the house? And that's actually the wrong way to approach it when you're starting out. And I know this is hard to believe, but it really is a rapport building business. And like Mark said, the more you're around other people, the more that your personal network knows what you do, they will send the leads to you. They will know that, Mark, he knows real estate. He helped, my cousin get out of their foreclosure or whatever it is, or he helped them get their house sold because it wasn't selling in the market. And I feel that that's really going to be the name of the game next year is how can you be a catalyst for a seller that can't sell their home? They don't know who to go to. The realtors might not be helping out in the way that they could. So that brings the other catalyst is how do we get through to realtors and show them that from an investor perspective, this is how I can help solve the problem, not just acting like how can we sell the house? How can we get the commission? How can we get the deal? It's really what is their problem? Are they moving out of state? Are they moving into an RV to travel the world? And that's the biggest thing starting out is how do you build the relationship with them? How do they remember you for next time so that they do send you business? They do send you referrals. And that's really the name of the game. It doesn't come like that. It doesn't come overnight. This isn't a get rich overnight business. And I'm finding that, I've only been really focused on it for less than a year since March. And it really is rapport building. One of the deals that we're just, flipping right now is completely from rapport. There was other people that were offering her more money, other stuff. They were offering her $20,000 more. But she said, I don't feel comfortable with you because you're just trying to get the sale. She ended up coming back to us because I listened to her. She remembered my name because it was another family member's name. Whatever it was, she remembered a certain thing about the care, the time, the listening. So that's the biggest thing we can kind of advise new people is don't rush it. Don't bounce on the deal. Really take the time to understand it. And like Mark said, you'll build referrals and references for the rest of your life.
And you made so many good points there. One of the things so often when people get involved with real estate, the old saying that's been around forever is real estate's all about location. And the joke is location, location, location are the three most important things of real estate. And it's true from the standpoint of it's hard to screw up a good location that's the demand location where everybody wants it.
Yes.
Everybody wants to rent there. Everybody wants to own there and all that. And a bad location that's next to industrial waste or whatever, something, it's hard to fix that. And so basically, location is one of the most important things about real estate. And now with technology and now with being able to live anywhere, there's people that are moving away from the city to be out in the country, but they can still now drive in maybe once a week instead of once a day. And that's changed the game, changed everything. So I like investing in outlying rural areas, but within striking distance of the bigger city. But now you don't have the potential crime and traffic and expense and everything else. It's a lot more affordable when you get away from the city. So the affordable housing piece is get outside the city if you have the kind of career job that you can do that. The second piece of the three keys of location, financing. Now, when financing is easy, when anybody can fog a mirror and get a loan and interest rates are low, then there's huge demand and prices run up. But when financing tightens up and the stock market goes down and the funding dries up and the banks and everything else, that problem is an opportunity. And so basically that's where creative finance coming in, because I can do a lease option, I can do a seller finance, I can do a rent to own, there's so many different things I can do subject to where that financing problem becomes an opportunity. And the third one, which is the most important one, is timing. Timing. I remember my business, I struggled for a while, and finally I met someone like myself who explained this to me. And when I finally got my head around it, back to mindset, and I understood it's not about when I want it, it's about what they need. And their timing, they may not be ready yet. Because if you got, like she said, 2 house payments, there's only a matter of time. You cannot afford those 2 house payments. You're going to run out of money. And so you're trying to hold on. Eventually, it's going to become a pre-foreclosure. And so the timing that doesn't work now, 3-6 months from now, 50 to 80% of the deals I get are based on timing and follow-up and building that rapport, building that relationship, and being one of the few only people who follow up, who takes good notes, who doesn't ask about the real estate. We're not in the real estate business. We're in the people business, which means that I ask about your dog or your kitty or your golf game or your grandkid or anything and everything I talk about that's emotional, that's personal, that's important to you, because the real estate is secondary and people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That is the most important thing in any good business, is having that listening, that empathy. When we're dealing with people in distress, often they're scared. Often they're hurting. Often they're in pain. Often they don't know who to turn to. And it's like a scared little dog or kitten or animal. It's like that animal needs patience and reassurance. So that's my biggest tool as a professional real estate investor, is listening, asking questions, empathy, and reassurance that helps them feel better, help them calm down. And as they calm down and relax, the wall comes down, they start to open up, and they start to really communicate and spill their guts and tell me what's really going on. So now I've got an opportunity to possibly help them.
Yes, love that. That really is the name of the game. It's not what, people don't remember what you told them. It's how you make them feel.
Right.
And it's because it's just human psychology, really. And I like how you mentioned the follow-up, like you said, the persistent person in real estate. You most likely are going to get more deals or, have people remember you a little bit more because you're the one that's calling them, checking up on them. Or you might be calling them too much, but at least they're remembering that you're calling them. I have one lead that I'm keep following up with. Every time he tells me when to follow up, I put it in my calendar and I make sure to call him around that time. And sometimes he calls me or answers the phone when I call. And it's like, oh, it's you again calling? Okay. No, I'm not going to sell till after winter. Okay. Not a problem. I put it in my calendar for January. That's after winter, kind of. So I'm just making certain notes with certain leads. And then there's those other leads that, don't waste your time on. That you're going to really wean out what to focus on in your career and what to, move on from and not waste your time on. And the more you build your clientele, your lead base, different types of marketing, then you can kind of start seeing when you need to delegate those calls. You can't do everything. I've heard this famous saying that, the more you have your hands on things, the less you can hold. So then you really kind of shift your mindset to who can I delegate this to? Do I need a VA now? Do I need someone that's in my, back office running emails and the actual, nitty gritty stuff? And that's something Mark also mentioned this morning is where is that point where you start delegating and focusing, how much is my time worth? And that's kind of the next step, really. Where do we differentiate what our time is worth and, where to go from there?
And people ask me all the time, how do I get started? Well, I say the way to get started is join the local RIA group, and I'm going to sure you're going to tell them again where to find on the website, whatever.
Yes.
How many meetings a month do you have?
We have over 13. So every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we meet, and then we also have a Saturday coffee, which is every second Saturday of the month. And like I said, we're trying to get one education event on like a 2-day, a weekend 2-day event every month. So that's to name a few. Like Mark mentioned, we are having the Firefast boot camp, which will be cohort 2 since we already had one.
That's coming up in January, right?
Yes, January 4th. We're going to meet every Thursday night as a recap. And then every weekend during those 6 weeks will be a field trip, whether that's going to a house, coming to the clubhouse and making cold calls, going door knocking. The mentors running it will be Rich Rice, and then of course Jim Keller and Evan Brown. So there will be 3 coaches this time, and like Mark said, it's really about how coachable are you. There's a certain demeanor when you're entering like a class like that is taking action, being accountable, and making the decisions throughout the day. If you're not strong at cold calling, maybe you get in your neighborhood and door knock on your neighbors like, hey, I'm doing real estate investing now. Just wanted to let you know if you ever need anything, or, I have resources. I have realtors in my network. I have loan, advisors to pre-qualify you. I have escrow people, whatever it is to provide the support just in your community is one place to start. You don't have to start calling strangers right away.
Plus, there's free Facebook ads. I mean, I had a 21-year-old kid that he reached out to me because I have a group in Minnesota. It's a meetup group. I have meetup groups all over the country. And so basically he reached out to me and he told me he's 21 years old. He was newly married within the last 6 months. He had $10,000 he'd saved. He was working as a carpenter. He worked a full-time 40-hour-a-week job plus a side hustle, another 20 hours a week.
Wow. Made
like $45 an hour on the side hustle. That's how he saved the $10,000. And he had good credit, and he'd been working on his job for 4 years. He checked all the boxes. So he said, but this is like 2020 when COVID was going on, and he talked to his father, had a friend of 20 years, been like a real estate broker for 20 years, and he had like 4 or 5 people he was talking to. They all said at that time, outside of Minneapolis in the suburbs, the place, Buffalo, there was nothing available. There was no inventory. There was such demand that even if you could find anything, it was multiple offers, 10, 20% over the asking price. And so the average house range he was looking for was a $250,000 house. And so I said, yeah, we can do that. He said, yeah, but they're paying $275,000 to $300,000, like $50,000 more than, and they're bringing the extra money that to make up the difference because it won't appraise for that. And he says, I don't have the extra $50,000. I said, you don't need it. He says, I don't? Oh, no. If and I actually helped him. He got what's called a USDA loan, and USDA is in a rural area. It's like a VA veterans loan, 0 down if you qualify. So he qualified for that loan, and we placed these free Facebook ads. Now, again, it wasn't one time. It wasn't one place. He had joined 30 different groups, and I taught him exactly what to say because, again, it's not about, I'm a real estate investor here out to steal your house. No, that's not the right approach. I said, well, let's talk about your story, what's true. Young, newly married couple in our early 20s looking to buy our first home.
Yes.
I'm a carpenter with tools and skills, so a house that's older and dated that needs some work is fine. I'm handy. I can fix things. We've got the credit. We've pre-qualified for a loan. We've got cash. I make all the qualifications. I'm even willing to talk to a realtor. Please just don't be pushy.
Yep.
So there's some variation of that ad that was emotional, that was personal, that was like some older person would go, a young married couple. Yes, I'd like to help them. That's exactly what happened. This gentleman, he remembered when he was young, and he and his father bought this house that needed a lot of work. They renovated it. So it wasn't completely done, but was mostly 90% done. And so basically, he was able to buy that house with a USDA loan, zero down, and he got like 2.65 or 2.85 30-year fixed loan.
Wow.
I think his out-of-pocket was maybe about $1,000, and he's rolled the closing costs, which were like $8,000 plus into the loan.
Wow.
And so I helped him buy it for $220,000, and it was appraised for about $250,000. And this was when houses were selling. The same kind of house was selling for $300,000, and you couldn't hardly find anything because it was using mindset. It was using creativity. It was thinking differently. And again, I was learning how to do this myself. I'm always learning. I invest an average of $1,000 a month in my education. Over the last 25 years, I've probably invested $250,000 in education, not including airfare and hotels and travel, but I've made that back many, many times over. But I made my priority education more important than entertainment. Did you know there's people spend that kind of money a year just on entertainment between sports and movies and cable and you name it, the boat? I mean, the people already spending that. They say, well, I don't have any money. I go, well, look at this and look at this. Well, my money's all gone. Well, that's because the choices you're making are about feel good, about instead of the financial discipline to change your life. And not only that, live a legacy because your kids watch you.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, your kids will duplicate. Why did my son learn to smoke like that? Well, he's been watching you drink like that. So, your kids are watching you all the time. And when you change you, that's the best thing you can do for your kids, become financially independent because now you lead by example. And people say, well, how much is this going to cost me to get started? $35.
Yes, sir.
You could find $35 a month and get in this group and meet other people who are actually doing it. Oh, that last fire class, there was, I think Evan interviewed him. How much did he make on that one deal? You know who I'm talking about?
He was from the Firefest. Yeah.
Yeah.
He made I believe they made $43,000 together. I could be wrong, but close to $50,000.
Right. And then they split it.
Yeah, and they split it from working together. Yeah, because that's the best thing about this club is if you find something, you don't know what to do, you're just starting out, you don't need to have every tool in your toolbox.
You don't need to know everything.
Exactly.
There's people who know it.
Exactly. Yeah, that was one of the best, the best stories that I heard.
So he probably made his half was $25,000.
Exactly.
That could change somebody's life that's listening to this right now.
Yes. That was one of the best classes that I've taken so far, Like I said, I've only been in this club for actually about a year now in November. And I've learned more in this last year than I have, throughout all my schooling. Of course, we learned the basics in school, like math, how to write, an essay, some science, whatever it is. But if I could learn about investing in real estate and how to invest in an IRA or how to save on certain taxes when I was a kid, man, I would have loved that. But all we could do is move forward now. We can't go back in the past. We can't change anything in the past, but we can change the future. So that's what I'm focusing on now is, what budget am I setting for the future? What do I need to get out of the rat race? What's my fixed monthly expenses? And what do I want on top of that to live comfortably and to live financially free? Which means I control my time, I control my schedule, I can work if I want to. I will work because I love it, I'm passionate about it. But that's the number one thing that they'll be going over in the class is, what is your budget? What are you spending on education monthly? I love that you said $1,000 on education a month because that's actually what's in my budget because I want to invest into myself. I don't want to spend it on entertainment. Real estate conferences are actually my entertainment because I get to go hang out with people who are where I want to be, millionaires, people who own 30 plus, 50 plus, 100 plus houses. And that's where I want to be someday. So it's also about surrounding yourself with the people that you want to be like, if you're still, stuck in life or you feel like you're still, slowing down or whatever it may be, it might just be your environment. It might just be who you're surrounding yourself with. And that's another thing about the mindset, is realizing that, changing it, and really changing it for yourself. You know, it's finding your why. You know, are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for your family? Are you doing it because you want to change the next generation? You know, did your parents do it, or do you want to be different than your parents? You know what I mean? So that's the number one thing moving forward, is leaving your legacy. Like you said, how do you want to leave your legacy? How do people remember you? And that's a good point, to invest in yourself. It really is.
And you're a millennial, and there's a lot of millennials like yourself. You're still in your 20s. I tell people all the time, the most important thing is to make the decision to just get started.
Yes.
Do it now, do it now, do it now. And this 2024 is going to be a fantastic opportunity. The market's cycled, the market changes. There's still some people trying to hold their price, but already the market's softening. There's opportunities presenting itself. And I'm telling you, you could make, on the low side, in my opinion, 100,000 in the next 12 to 24 months. And especially if you get the right education, the right network, and everything else. And so the thing is, when I started, I didn't have $1,000 a month. When I started, I didn't have any money. I'm a security guard making minimum wage. I can barely pay my bills. Mm-hmm. Some of you out there can barely pay your bills. You're living paycheck to paycheck. But I did develop a burning desire. I went to the library and I got a book for free, Thinking Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I started reading some of these books. We got free, ton of education for free on the internet now, on YouTube and Facebook groups. So they're just everywhere. This free information is unbelievable. And so the hands-on relationship comes at your local RIA group. When people join on Facebook or YouTube or any of these things, and they say, well, yeah, now I've watched the videos and now I talked to people, but I really want to go do a deal now. What do? Join your local RIA group where you can actually meet some actual people doing it in person in your own backyard. That's the number one thing I tell people. And my very first deal, I was a bird dog. I didn't have or use any of my money, and my portion that I got was $350. I then went into a 3-day sell-a-thon, like they had a different speaker every 90 minutes. And the national guru I'd heard about, he presented, it was only $5,000 for his 3-day boot camp. But today only, it's $49.97. Ha ha ha. And anyway, I didn't have $5,000. I didn't have that kind of money. I remember then he did the final pitch. It was like 100 people in the room. Today only, we got the red course, the blue course, the green course. They're $9.97 each, but today only you can get all three for $1,000. And they're like, yeah, but I was making about $1,000 a month back then in the 80s. Yeah. And so I'll never forget, I got thinking, because I've been reading this book, Thinking Grow Rich, about mindset and everything. I thought, well, surely there's 2 or 3 people here in the room that are like me that don't have the full amount that'd love to do it. I had to approach 12 people until I found 2 that said yes. Wow. It's a numbers game. You got to be able to deal with rejection and fear and all these issues. But the 2, they committed to do a third. So now I could take my $350 along with their money, and I turned it into $1,000 worth of education. See, that's mindset. That's desire. That's you do whatever it takes. And so from that home study course, I then got the red course, which was on wholesaling. I devoured it and I studied it. In the next 30 days, I made $3,000 because his program was the $1,000 applied. And if you could pay another $3,000, you could go to a 3-day boot camp in Tampa, Florida. And I still had to get airfare. I still had to get a place to stay and all that kind of stuff. But I was so hungry and wanting it so bad, I got that deal. The 100% of that money went to the, to people teaching the education, because I could see that he knew. And he'd, done 1,000 deals. So I went to Florida. I didn't even have money for a hotel room. Enterprise Rent-A-Car back then was running a weekend special, $9.99 a day. So I got on the plane. I got off. I got the Enterprise Rent-A-Car for $10 a day. I slept in the car and went down to the beach where you can pull that chain, get the cold water where it's off. Yeah. And I mean, that's how bad I wanted it. That's how you got to be. You've got to make a decision. You want it bad enough. You're going to pay any price, do whatever it takes. And I came out of that course and I was on fire. Now, the thing about it too is I saw in the schedule, he did a seminar every month, and he was going to be coming from Florida. Eventually he'd be coming to Texas. He'd do one in Dallas. He did one in Houston. I did it in Atlanta. I did it in that first year. I did it in Detroit. My mom was living there. I repeated that same 3 days 5 times in the next 12 months. And every time I'd come and take it, I'd come out on fire, excited and motivated, and I'd go do another deal. I closed about 7 deals and made about $39,000 that first year.
Wow.
And 100% of that $39,000 all went back into my education, all went back into marketing, all went back. I reinvested in myself and my business, but that has made me millions of dollars. I've done over 300 deals, houses, notes. We closed an apartment complex. If anybody's interested in apartment complex investing, let me know. I've also been going after some mobile home parks now too. But so I do commercial, I do residential. I focus on passive income and helping people have passive income. But the apartment complex we bought in San Antonio area was about 41 doors for just under $4 million. I think it's increased in value 22% the first year.
Wow.
And we got locked in at about a 3.5% interest rate.
Wow.
And that's, again, as a team, we did a real estate syndication. And again, the lead guy's out of LA, and he contacted me about 5 to 7 years earlier and said, hey, I see you're in Texas. I need somebody boots on the ground. Do you do apartments? I said, yes. But we went through 5 different deals that fell through. It took 5 years to get that deal with that particular group. And that's the other thing, people, apartments, and there's all this hype. That's easy. It's not easy. There's apartment complexes foreclosing now. And so you've got to get the education. You've got to build a network of relationships and learn how to do it right. So instead of losing money, you can make money and at least reduce your risk. But the biggest risk of all is doing nothing.
Yes, that is. You don't want to be looking back 2 to 5 years from now and saying, I wish I would have, I wish I could have. Because we know you can. We hope that you believe that you can, because like we said before, going back, it's all in your beliefs. It's all in your thoughts, and thoughts lead to choices, which lead to actions, which lead to results. So that is what Mark and Rich will be going over this weekend. I can't wait. I'll be there. It's really good to surround yourself, like I said, with like-minded people. That's why I'm at every event that I can be at this Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. I'm surrounding myself with people who are where I want to be. And I'm just trying to learn. Like Mark said, always learning. Even though you may have experience, you may know things, always keep an open mind and being open to what you may not know, because we only know what we know. And looking forward to the class.
It's going to be great. I'm excited.
Yeah. So we're going to go get ready for this creative finance class. It's called Fire Focus, and it's going to be on exchangers. So if you're free on Thursdays from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., we have an exchanger deal-making session. It's live. People put up properties, cash, to-be-created notes, stuff. People sell cars or whatever you have, just to take action, just to make an offer, just how to think creatively and put yourself out there. We also have events, like I said, every 4 Wednesdays of the month. So from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. we have events. And then we will also be having our Christmas holiday party on December 9th, which is a Saturday morning. We like to do it in the morning so that we don't really need to compete with other Christmas events. We know you guys have family, other events, and so we're looking forward to that. And yeah, anything you want to end with, Mark?
Well, I was going to leave my contact information so people can reach me, because I have people all the time say, hey, Mark, I know about this deal. This is a family member, this whatever situation. I don't have the money. I don't know what to do. So they reach out, and then they can get paid if I buy that deal. So there's lots of different ways. They can start as a bird dog. They can get a little education, become a wholesaler. They might have some money, and they say, man, I got this money. I'm sitting on $250,000, but I don't know. I can't find anything that makes sense. I've got deals. And I can get a deal not only in California, but I can get a deal in Texas and Florida. I'm working deals right now in Chicago and Illinois. All over the country, but I'm selective where I like to do deals.
Yes.
But my contact, and it's my number. You text me, you'll actually get me. Now, I may be in the middle of something like I am right now, and starting in 2024, I'm going to be living outside the U.S. a lot, doing things virtually as a digital nomad from anywhere, and they'll be back speaking on a RIA cruise that they're going to have in February.
Yes.
But my contact phone number is 832-766-6666. 6997. And the best thing to do is text me at that number, because most of the time, if it's a number I see I don't recognize, I don't answer the phone.
Yes.
I wait and I text you. But text is best, 832-766-6997. Or you can email me, and sometimes it's a week before I get to some of these emails, but text is better. But email me at mentor, mentor, and then my name, Mark Pantak, MARK, PANTAK @gmail.com. Mentor Mark Pantak @gmail.com. You can email me, and once a month I do a nationwide free Zoom with, I've got meetup groups all over the coast to coast, from Miami to New York and California. I've got one on probate, but there's apartments and notes and all kind of different things. But we normally do a free meeting every month, and we network and we exchange ideas and information.
Awesome. Awesome. Be sure to text him, guys. Pick his brain, get him on the phone. Like you said, if you're looking to invest out of state, has boots on the ground in many states. So just get to know him. Again, thank you for joining us. If you guys want to check out our schedule, it's on our website at iereic.org. You can click the events page. There's also member resources there. If you want to become a member, it's $35 a month. Really can't beat it. I mean, it's better than Netflix. It really is. So thank you again, Mark.
Thank you.
And hope to see you guys on the next one. Thank you.